Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Eddie Marcus again. I want to direct this message to the young brothers, young males throughout the land. Many of you are in college, and some of you are finishing up, and some of you might still have a little time. But in the process, whether you have, you will, gotten together with your significant other, and you guys are going to plan the future. You're going to dream and laugh and be excited about what tomorrow holds, because you and you are coming together as one. At least that's the hope. And then your world, you prepared yourself for it, and you step out of that educational realm into life. And some of you are going to be shocked. Many of you are going to be shocked. Some of you in school have taken the required courses that would be needed in what the New World Order is looking forward to. And so if you can be utilized in doing anything that could further their interest and their greatness and reach for godhood, then you will probably be as necessary to them as those were who were instrumental in designing the nuclear bombs, atomic bombs, however you want to refer to them. And those who perhaps just got some education that's relative to some other needs, then you will be associated. And some of you, though you have education, just won't be needed. Sure, your profession might be important, but don't need that many of you, because the truth of the matter is the population is going to be dwindled. Now, I know that's kind of hard to think of. That's kind of hard to imagine. But if it's hard for you to imagine, I'd like for you to check a few history books. They did give you some information about how, in the beginning of the West, how natives were slaughtered. They might have even told you about how, when the war was going on between the Westerners and the natives, how their own people would sell guns to the enemy just to make money, knowing that the battle would keep on going, and as long as the battle is going, guns would be needed, ammunition would be needed, and there's money to be made. And so the issue was, after all, money. Let's think about that. Think about how bombs have been dropped on civilizations and demolished buildings and property and lives by the hundreds of thousands. Just think about, when money is to be made, lives have no value whatsoever, at least to those who have the power to take advantage of the situation. They have no zest for life outside of their own. And so, as I look at you brothers and think about you planning your futures and find out you might have to come out of college working jobs at McDonald's, or even then you might have to compete with the Mexican or somebody whose life has been so devastating that they would undercut you for the work or the cost of it, salary, wages. And so, but that's neither here nor there, brothers and sisters, because let me tell you, men who are associated with the various agencies and groups that plan on doing this to the rest of the population, many of them have blown the whistle. Many of them have come forth and given us information that closed some doors, information that answered some questions about things we were kind of curious about. Well, we must take heed when people like John F. Kennedy tells us to beware of that military-industrial complex, when he starts thinking about changing the way we do business with the Federal Reserve. When Abraham Lincoln does a little of the things that he does, and even when Wilson, who made it possible for the federal income tax thing to take hold, even Wilson wants to tell us some things. And then the beginning fathers are trying to tell us ahead of time what to stay away from. We find ourselves caught up in all of those warnings meaning nothing. Just the other day, a gentleman by the name of Dice went on the streets with his camera, and he would stop citizens as they walked back and forth in the streets and ask them if he could get their signature. He was taking a petition, trying to get some support for some decisions that President Obama was making that would prohibit the legality of the Bill of Rights. In other words, repeal the Bill of Rights. And he was just talking to people, and people by the droves, as he talked to them, would sign the petition. Sign away. And he would tell them, you signed that, okay, you just supported, sign away your Bill of Rights. And they walked away happy like they had played a major role in government. Now, what does that tell you? That tells you how the education system has failed our people. I don't know what they're teaching them today, but apparently it's nothing, because they are as ignorant can be. And as he did this, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to think you have to be careful about some of the things that you give attention to, some of the things that you evaluate and come out with conclusions that might just be false. For instance, this gentleman, even though he was asking people this just to see where their minds were at, or if they were really paying attention, or if they were just, well, ignorant. This information was put on YouTube. And I'm sure that these people who sign these petitions, many of them will go away thinking that President Obama, is trying to do something to get rid of your Bill of Rights. And they will be posting stuff on their YouTube or Facebook talking about Obama trying to get rid of your Bill of Rights. And it's not true at all. It's just something that was being used to ask you a question. But see how things get distorted. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you can't actually say when things are going to stop being distorted, because as long as people got interests that perhaps considered more important than others, then they will do as they have done throughout history to prevail. We have talked about the scandals, we've talked about pyramid schemes, we've talked about all kinds of Ponzi schemes and things that people do to one another, and how vulnerable the people are that fall into these situations. Well, no less, ladies and gentlemen, these people were worthy to be considered in the game. But outside of that game, one that can include us all is the game of life. And if these people who consider themselves smart, these people who had a few bucks, if they were vulnerable and caught up in something like that, and we have much less than that, but our aspirations and desires and wants and cravings are just as high as anybody else's. And so if the game is being played from us through the top down, through the system, then we buy into it just like everybody else. So don't think, my friends, that we don't have this to worry about. The message that I tell you today is that it has already happened. We have all been scammed, and we are being scammed presently. And the only alternative we have to change this thing, because I hear from others that they got some really hard, rough stuff scheduled for a whole bunch of us. Yet we do have a way out. And that way out is to come together, blacks, whites, men and women, all of us who are not of the 1%. All of us who are not in there with that decision making about what we're going to do to scam them. All of us need to find some reason to come together. And our main goal is to liberate ourselves from that which will destroy us. We must dare to dream once again, doing what we must do in order for those dreams to come true. First of all, knowing our focus and helping one another to achieve the dreams throughout the system of life that we as a people, new people generate. Protecting one another and fighting against all viruses that will come in to separate, destroy, or do anything to break the peace, to deny the prosperity, to fake the joy. I'm saying to you, ladies and gentlemen, this is the cry. You have a choice. You've always had a choice. But now we're talking about others are saying Armageddon. Others are saying these are the last days. We say that these things are happening to us. We say it in churches. We say it on the street corners. We say it at coffee shops. Oh, things are getting rough and rough. But is that all we do? Recognize that it's happening and sit back and wait for it to happen? To be led, to be enslaved, to do what we are told to do without even batting an eye? Too afraid to do anything? Ladies and gentlemen, if we know the storm is coming, then we must prepare for the storm. We must build the shelter before the storm gets here. And when the storm comes, go in the shelter. But if we must come back up and rousel that storm and take that storm by the throat and throw it back down to wherever it come from, then we must be prepared to do that. And in order for us to do that, we must be one. We must be one. We can't be wondering about this. What are we doing? We are having our dreams. Each of us being able to take advantage of the careers in which makes us who and what we are. We get a chance to glow, not to compete against one another, but to compete against ourselves, to be the best that we can be at whatever it is that we love doing. Oh, I'm telling you, magnificence lies here. And nobody has anything to fear because we are protecting one another. And our only enemy is those who want to be God, because they will kill us. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen? Many of us will be willing to lay down our lives and die in a hope that it might teach these 1%ers the truth that they have been denied. Sacrificing our lives so that they can learn. Oh, it's just this rough for some people. Some people just can't learn, it seems. And death, even death that they take, has no effect on them at all. But the death that is given to them may be, anyway, the one that died doesn't lose. So we will have that. But at the same time, I believe until we can reach that point, it is understood by every human being that you got the right to defend yourself. And I'm not one to tell you or suggest by any means that you don't defend yourself. In fact, I say be prepared. Love the whole world as you love yourself. Do for the whole world everything that you can from what they might request of you to make them see the love that lives in you. But if by some strange reason one of those nations are like wolves with sheep's clothing and want to take a bite out of us, that'll be their last thought. That'll be their last thought. Plain and simple. So I'm saying to the world of people outside of that 1%, we still got a chance. Oh, they coming on us. They got our brothers and sisters. They got our mothers and fathers. They got our uncles and cousins. They got our neighbors in the military, in the guards, in the police force. Got guns. We'll be given orders to tackle us, to throw us down, to beat us, to shoot us, whatever. And most of them will follow that order. I don't want you to blame them. It's disgusting. But they do not know any better. And the only way they will learn is when you stand up, stand your ground, and man your position without biting, without being afraid, just being bodacious in what you know to be true. They'll learn. When they know that you are not afraid of them, when they know that you are bold enough to say you're not afraid of death and mean it, and dare them to kill you, oh, brother, they'll learn. But only people who are real can do that. So I'm not asking everybody to do that. Only those that are real. I think I'll leave that there. You might be able to get something out of this message. Once again, I'm Eddie Marcus, and I'm here again. Until next time, bye-bye.